Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and with the release of The Sims 4 Lovestruck, a lot of people have been talking about the date system and whether or not it actually switches up how your Sims date, what the dates actually do, what activities they can get up to, and obviously a lot of that is caused by the fact that yes, it's a new system. However, in the list of activities, there's not really anything new to do. Majority of those things are available in the Sims 4 base game. The others are available with Cats and Dogs, Horse Ranch, and also Cottage Living, and then predominantly seasons. So today, I figured why not put this to the test? Why not see if the new dating system actually does have more of an effect on our game than we are probably noticing as Simmers, just from people who have done a bunch of those activities for the past 10 years of playing this game. This isn't just going to be like base game only versus base game and Lovestruck. This is going to be all the other packs minus Lovestruck, and then obviously all the packs including Lovestruck. Just as a heads up to those of you who maybe don't have some of the packs that I am going to talk about. I did just realize that my fan has been on this whole time, so I do apologize for that, but it is 30 degrees in my room and I've just had to shut my windows to record. Also, ignore this if you see it. These are my guesses for Taylor Swift's Mastermind. Let me know if you've reached this point on Mastermind, because I feel you. Starting off with the Lovestruck dates, which I actually feel like I unfairly judged when it came to the different types of date. We went on a get to know you date with Salim. At the beginning, before I even asked him to go on a date, we were 22 in friendship and 0 in romance, but he still accepted the date. On the get to know you, the main goal is just to socialize. It doesn't tell you any which way. As long as you are having socialization, you are getting that main goal. However, it didn't ask me to do any other romantic interactions other than Stargaze. It does actually get up a romance, whereas the one that we originally got in Outdoor Retreat actually gets up friendship instead of romance. And then by the end of that date, they were 48 in friendship and then 46 in romance. So really big boost for getting a gold date in romance. Secondly, we had a date with Paolo. We went on a romantic date. Before we started, we were 100 in friendship and 42 in romance. I had all of these dates be at the same place, just the park in Oasis Springs. I also chose all the same activities, which just included food, drinks, games, stargazing, physical intimacy, getting up your romance, funny interactions. When it came to the romantic date, the main overall goal was actually to socialize, but romantically. So anything under affection, physical intimacy, or flirtation counted towards that main goal. It did actually give me a couple more romantic interactions as the suggested tasks, such as light physical intimacy and also affection. He did also ask me whilst I was on the date to be his romantic partner, which I did happen to accept. That also played through the animation as well, which sometimes that glitches, other times it's absolutely fine. And then once the date ended, we got the wholesome romance dynamic, and then we were also at a 95 in friendship and 100 in romance, which was absolutely wild. He then asked to move in with me, which I did actually decline, and he was hurt by that fact. Last but certainly not least, especially because he is a community favorite when it comes to romance, but he is also slightly toxic in my opinion, and that is Akira Kivo. So this was actually interesting. We went on the repair date with him. Now, to run a repair date, you actually have to be in a negative romance bar with someone. So at the beginning, they were 45 in friendship, so they were still okay friends, but they were minus 29 in romance. I actually tried to ask him on this date over the phone. He kept denying it, so I physically had to invite him around to my house and then ask him in person, and then he finally accepted it. It does say the moods can change whether someone is going to accept or not, but at the end of the day, all 3 of these Sims did accept my dates. Now, the overarching goal here, I do find confusing on the repair dates. It says improve romantic satisfaction. Now, I was just going about all of the tasks. Any task that it asked me to do didn't actually tick off the romantic satisfaction. I don't know what does. Maybe you have to find out about what a Sim likes and then try to do those interactions. I can see that probably having an effect, but I'm not 100% sure. And this video is not about me finding out what actually does get up romantic satisfaction, but I thought it was interesting to point out. We did also get a couple little bits of intimacy thrown in, like light physical intimacy and stargazing. However, it would not allow me to extend the date. He kept turning me down. So unfortunately, we only got a bronze, but by the end of it, we were 72 friendship and then a measly 9 in romance. We didn't get as much of a romance gain as the other dates because we got trapped on bronze and not gold. Right off the bat, we are going to use one of my most favorite things introduced with The Sims 4 Get Together, one of the most undefeated systems ever made for The Sims 4, and it is of course the club system. Now I want to add some activities that I added to every single one of those dates that we've actually just quickly played through in The Sims 4 Lovestruck. Paint, play guitar, although now I'm scared that he's just gonna run off and play guitar this whole time. Gonna throw in some chess in there. Now I don't think we'll actually have to do this, but I'm gonna list Be Romantic just to the dating club, although I think the base game tasks that we get with this date are actually gonna encourage romantic. Honestly, I've been so deep into Lovestruck recently that I can't really remember how base game dating works. He has the same relationship values as we started with Lovestruck. If we went to a gallery, we could probably go like look at the photos together or like the museum, but I've said it before, I will say again, museums are the worst lot type in The Sims 4. I want to do a tier ranking of lot types because I actually have way more feelings than I ever thought I did. I actually need to do a little bit of prep because the one and only Lovestruck actually takes this step out, but I think I prefer like having to prepare for it. And it is of course the picnic basket that came with cottage living. You can have picnics using this. You can't sit on a picnic blanket if you only have cottage living because that doesn't exist. You need The Sims 4 Lovestruck for that, which by the way, I did go over in my cross compatibility. And we're going to drop that into the basket and then we're going to put that basket in his inventory. He's got everything else that he needs. We got some easels, we've got microphones, we've also got the guitar, which we had on all 3 of our dates last time. Socialize with your date. So that is a little bit of a difference. I did boldly state in... Oh, he's trying to get romantic with him. He said no to that. Maybe we should be friendly. Let's impersonate. We need both Sims to be flirty at the same time and sit and talk to your date. But yes, I boldly claimed that the date system didn't feel all that different from the initial one that we have, which is true. I do feel like it is a lot of the stuff that we have been seeing because it is predominantly base game. Like it has been stuff that we as Simmers have probably been doing on dates for the past decade. The thing that makes it different is the type of date. It just gives you a different overarching. Don't come and grab my food, Björn. Back off. Let's give him a heartfelt compliment. Let's try and get a little friendly with one another because it's being a little bit ridiculous. Joke 3 times over. Now I will say it does give you a little bit of variation when it comes to Lovestruck. There's usually 3 goals that you can focus on, and it doesn't feel like you constantly have to do the same things over and over again. Like it's never really, from what I can remember, asked for 3 things in a row. It's just asked for 2, which I mean still isn't that much better because it does just feel like you're talking the Sims ear hole off. But at least with 2 it feels like you can kind of like have different conversations. I can kind of see like in Lovestruck it's like, oh, like do this activity then talk about this activity, or sometimes it just says just talk about the activity without even doing it. So it is kind of like leading it, making it feel a little bit more natural. In Lovestruck I'm fairly sure it's like just have like deep thoughts, like talk under that like deep category. Don't feel as if you have to specifically have like a deep conversation with them 3 times over. Their time is actually the same. Obviously in Lovestruck you can either extend it or your date can extend it. However, it is from the base 6 hours. We're not getting any other kind of like eat with your date, like sit and eat, or really like go have a drink. It's not really taking into account where we are. I kind of do want to quickly check what would happen if we went on a date to a restaurant, because I know in Lovestruck it doesn't count if you like talk about the food that you are receiving. It doesn't tick it off when it says talk about food. You just have to do the new small talk interactions that are introduced with it. I don't think we're going to be able to get flirty at the same time, but I really want to, so that we can potentially get a gold. That was actually quite easy. Now we need to kiss our date. We haven't even had our first kiss yet, so this is intriguing. It actually didn't really ask us to kiss for the Lovestruck one, which, I mean, to be fair, that's kind of a downfall of the Lovestruck one, I personally will say, is the fact that if you have so many things like actually chosen, you have to do 3 as a minimum. I would say the sweet spot is probably about 4 or 5. I feel like it gives you enough variation, but then you also like get to see all of those different things, whereas we chose what, about like 12 activities for our dates, and we weren't getting like a lot of romantic ones. We weren't really seeing like the full brunt of those 12 different activities. Kiss your date passionately. Oh my goodness. It is taking into account how our Sims feel, because it's obviously like, oh, he's feeling very flirty right now, therefore he's able to kiss our date passionately. Obviously, there's no option to like change the location of this date, to extend it, which I think is a really big positive of Lovestruck. Would I buy the pack for that? No. But I do think it's a really, really nice addition. I do feel as if it makes dating feel way more realistic. You don't have to like cancel out of time remaining or just like wait for this counter to run down. We cannot direct him to paint whatsoever. Even though he is in the club with us, you can't like get group members to paint. But I'm gonna pull them out just in case he decides to like hover over to one of these. We haven't started the gathering actually, but we can. So even when you're on a date, it does start a base game group. Whenever you have the little hexagon above someone's head, that means you're in a group with them, which means you can like direct them to like make drinks for everyone. And that works exactly the same way in Lovestruck. This just kind of overrides it to maybe have them do some specific things. We're gonna take ourselves off to the toilet and see what Paolo actually gets up to. Looks like he could potentially be heading, to the chess table. I will say everyone is up on my man with having the group activities, because he kind of just goes to like sit down and then Sims will like interact with him if he's doing a specific activity. Oh, Greta, is that you just decided to use my guitar as well? I mean, there's one in here that you could have used. Maybe you wanted to be in the great outdoors, which I guess is fine. Legendary date. There's something special in your Sims household inventory. I forgot to look. I wanted to know if like getting a gold date actually brings up your romance in base game and like other packs the same way it does in Lovestruck. I will say, maybe if we end the gathering, maybe if that gathering hadn't started, he potentially would have left straight away, because I feel like in Lovestruck they like hang around on the lot when a date is done, which is really, really nice. They don't just like automatically leave, but he does actually seem to be like staying on the lot. So it is technically kind of like you are extending it. Like right now, we could ask him to like go back to our place. You just have to wait for the timer to run down and then be able to do that, which, like I said, definitely a strong point of Lovestruck is the fact that you don't have to do either of those things. You can kind of just dictate like where you want the date to go. See, now I actually think this is where base game is gonna struggle, because obviously the new expansion introduces 2 new different types of date. You have the romantic repair if you are in the negative when it comes to your romantic relationship, and then there's also the get to know you, which actually, from my understanding, allows you to ask out a sim kind of before you ever could in base game. So we'll see if this works with Salim. I will say he is angry, which is unfortunate, but he's currently friendship 22. We're just going to click on this and we're going to say ask on date. He might deny us just because of how little we know him, he might also just like accept it and be absolutely fine with going on a date with us. Decline going on a date with Johnny. Try getting to know him better romantically. Also, a Sim's mood can change the outcome. Sometimes talking in person is the best option. Now, we're both feeling embarrassed. That probably isn't going to help. We also literally don't even have the option to ask Akira out on a date, which is unfortunate. I'm gonna send Salim home and then see if I can invite Akira over and then see if I can ask him in person. But obviously the romantic repair, sometimes they will turn you down for it. Other times they'll be like, okay, yeah, like I would like to try and repair this with you, and we'll go on a date, as we saw in the like sped up version. So I will say that's another strong point for Lovestruck, is the fact that you can like already ask someone on a date even if you do have a negative relationship. More choices: romance, affection. We can give a romantic gift, we can compliment, flirt, pick up, and ask risque question, and we cannot ask out on a date whatsoever. Like, it's just not here because our relationship, I like how he kicked over the bin and then instantly picked it up. He said, oops, that's a little bit too mean. Johnny actually hasn't done anything to me, and I should probably pick his bin back up. I am quickly just gonna knock Paolo's back down to a 50, because even though I know all of the dates that we went on in Lovestruck were actually in the park, because we can't even date these two, maybe we should try calling Salim and see if he'll agree to that instead of asking in person. Nope, he's declined once again. But I want to see how a date works actually in a dine-out restaurant, because some people have told me that you actually get a couple of different like date activities even on like base game and dine out dates, and I already explored this with Lovestruck. When you have to talk about food, you can't just like talk about the dine out food. Like, you can't do the interactions that came with dine out. You physically have to do the small talk interactions that came with Lovestruck. This would be better if I had a restaurant in my world. I feel like Gordon Ramsay should be calling me an idiot sandwich. Me not placing one down before the date ends. As long as we get to a gold, I want to see how much their romance jumps up by. They do change up the goals. It kind of takes into account that you've come to a restaurant. It's like, go and request a table. Already, this is so much better than the Lovestruck date that I had in a dine-out restaurant, just because it actually feels like it's kind of personalized. Unfortunately, again, you don't have like the specific like do romantic socials or do this, because that depends on like what type of date. Click on your date whilst eating and select discuss food under friendly, and then order food for yourself and your date. They love a good deep conversation in The Sims 4. Dine out actually worked. We've got our meal. Bada bing, bada boom. Here's your order. Thanks. Get eating away, and then you usually have to like pause this. They scoff down, oh, does he not like that? Pause it to actually find the socialize about meal. I'm gonna guess that it's under small talk. Okay, maybe not. Look, Johnny's already finished his food. Oh no, blummin' heck. Well, this definitely isn't gonna be a gold. Oh wait, discuss food flavors. Complain about dish. Hopefully these don't cancel out now that he's finished his food. Bloomin' heck, they didn't even pop up. I'm gonna complain about the dish twice in a row. Come on, Johnny. I think he's gonna approve of my complaints of the dish, considering it literally just looked like he spat his out. It's already a gold. We don't need to flirt with our date whilst being flirty, because it's already there. Oop, they said, may I be excused to go kiss my boyfriend in the lobby? No, you're not coming to stay at my place. You actually turned me down for a date, so don't come crawling back to me, Akira. The Sims community might love you, but I'm not a massive fan of you right now. But now I just have to sit here for 2 hours 45 minutes whilst I wait for this date to end. Paolo is not down for an experimental dish. He said, I would rather have chicken nuggies. They are currently on 63. I doubt he's going to be romantic with us in the 2 minutes that we have left. We are watching down here a little closely. We got gold. It didn't seem to go up really that time. We were on 63. Another point for Lovestruck. I very much have mixed feelings about this. I feel feel as if I am Paolo eating an experimental dish, because whilst I think obviously the Lovestruck dates are kind of a little bit stronger in the sense of the date actions, the fact that you can kind of navigate your date as well, sometimes only for specific things. Like, you can't get them to play a musical instrument, you can get them to paint though. I don't really understand why they chose to do like some of those as like options that you can give your date to do and then others not. That just feels weird. Like, why wouldn't you just do it for everything if you had that coding? And then obviously I've already talked about my disappointment when it comes to the date activities, because a lot of them are things that we have been doing for years as simmers, just like on dates, even if we didn't have that little taskbar up there telling us that we should do it. Like, I've been on so many like painting date with my sims, and yes, whilst only my sim can paint on those dates, they can still paint. And then if you set up a club like we did with Get Together, you can have your date do that sometimes on the off chance. You can't like tell them to do it, but if you set up that club and you have that as an interaction that they should run, sometimes they will just choose to do that. So I feel like that's a little work around it anyway for those of you who maybe aren't picking up Lovestruck. I know I said like, I don't know if I feel like attraction should be part of base game or whether it should have been part of the pack. Honestly, in past Sims games, even The Sims 2, the chemistry system came with a specific pack, and I think Growing Together also does that chemistry and dynamic system really, really well. I don't mind that they are in packs. Obviously, I think it's a little bit more of a sour note with The Sims 4 in particular when it comes to that discussion, because this is a game that has been out for 10 years. It's also a game that has been updated way more than any other Sims game in history because it's been out for that 10 years. So in the old games, it kind of felt like we had these 4-year periods where, yeah, if you wanted extra, like you could buy those extra things. But in The Sims 4, it's like, I feel like base game is just lacking in itself, especially after 10 years, that it does kind of feel like salt in the wound. And I feel like that's a completely valid way to feel if you are a big fan of this game and actually enjoy playing it, but don't feel like it's reached the potential that it has. However, I will firmly say, I personally believe if we're going to have this debate of what should or shouldn't have been base game, I think the date overhaul system shouldn't have been part of the pack. I'm sorry. I think if they had added that into base game, it's something that makes dates only slightly better if you think about it. We've kind of discussed the positives in this video, but building up your romantic relationship, originally I didn't think those date titles really did much difference, which they don't. Like, you still have to do like the same kind of interactions. However, the overarching goal is like slightly different depending on what date. It also allows for those dates to happen, which sometimes in base game it doesn't allow. But that's the thing. Dating has been a base game thing for the longest time. I feel like it's so weird to have ask on date and now create a date event if you have the expansion. Like, why didn't they just roll the date stuff into base game? Because after 10 years, it does feel like dating needed an upgrade. And it's annoying that players who have been playing for those 10 years and have wanted an update on it now have to pay, what, £40 to get their hands on it. I always think there's going to be people on either side of that argument when it comes to like what should or shouldn't be on base game. I'm not here to like win you over to either side. I'm just saying how I personally feel, and I personally feel date update should have been in base game, and then the rest of the pack, they honestly probably could have done more with it. I personally feel like they focus far too much on intricate systems and not on new gameplay that made dating actually feel fresh. It was just kind of a rehash thing of like, oh, this makes it work slightly better. Kind of like my wedding stories, kind of like Dream Home Decorator. You were already able to do those things, but now it's just wrapped up in a new shiny package. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I do think it's a really, really interesting topic. Be kind to one another. I know I said that people can be on either side of this argument, which I think both fair and valid. You're allowed to feel the way that you're feeling, as long as you're not being nasty to one another in the comments. But thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm enjoying these little experimental videos. They're really, really fun to record. I appreciate you all, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye now.